Gina Hall Bodmer, Gina Hall's sister, back again, sharing the addendum that I attached to the letter that I wrote to McTavish Films. Inaccurate statements commonly made about the Gina Renee Hall murder case. And when it comes to telling the truth and assuming content is given in its correct context, it is not a short list. In actuality, all of the facts and details of the Gina Hall murder case, known and unknown, would fill a 500-page book. And it will, soon. But for now, here are a few relevant facts for consideration that should provide an accurate perspective, bringing to light why a documentary is concerning to the victim Gina Renee Hall's family, if it is to be based only on content derived from Under the Trestle by Ron Peterson. For consideration, Gina never, I'll tell you the statements, and then I'll say why we believe they're either false or we don't know. Gina never went anywhere alone. False. Gina's sister decided to go out partying instead of with Gina. False. Or UTT's current version, despite Gina's attempt to persuade her. False. Delana was not up for a night out, still exhausted from studying for her grad school exams and getting little sleep the previous week. And that's the truth, but not the only reason Delana did not go out with Gina. And also, as written in UTT, unable to find anyone else up for the excursion, Gina made a decision to do something she had never done before. She would go out by herself. False. Court testimony from myself and character witnesses indicate Gina was quite comfortable going places alone, and just because Delana Hall testified she was unaware of Gina's specific plans involving others or not, does not conclude that Gina had not made plans to meet friends. She was on the phone all afternoon with friends. Gina left at 10 p.m. yet did not arrive at the Marriott until 11 p.m., 30 to 45 minutes unaccounted for. Gina walked into the Marriott and went directly to a table in this very crowded room, immediately sitting at a specific table, which is what people do when they are meeting people they know. But the storyline is certainly more sensationalized to state that Gina made a decision to do something she had never done before. She would go out by herself. Even though the author did write elsewhere, every girl in her circle of friends recalls Gina's tendency to come home early, even on weekends. Well, to clarify that context, this statement was derived from Gina's college friends' testimony. They were called as character witnesses, and the context of this statement was a discussion about Gina's social life. Gina would be out with friends, dancing, social events, but when Gina was ready to leave, be it to do homework or just simply ready to go home, she would leave from wherever they all were and go home alone. Gina danced with Epperly. Gina must have liked Epperly. Gina met Epperly and made a decision to leave with him and go to a cabin with him in less than 1 hour timeline. And as written in UTT, Gina left the club with a man shortly after midnight. True or false? Those who know Gina know it to be false. As to those with nothing to hide also knew. The many investigators who came to know Gina's character, like Austin Hall, who said he never could figure out how Gina got to that lake house because he did not believe that she went willingly. So, whose statements should we believe? The killer and his best friend, or the multiple witnesses' statements, including 2 females, older women, who came forward twice reporting to authorities as soon as they saw the news release of the missing girl's picture, Gina, who they both recognized as the same girl they just saw Saturday night before being harassed in the Marriott. Gina, a girl who sought refuge at these 2 women's close-by table, getting away from the same man who approached their table, still harassing Gina, as told in the police report, and those women bravely confronted that predator, Epperly. Trooper Hall's notes also mention the girls having seen Gina dancing with a man who wore glasses, as well as the same stated on other witnesses' statements in her file, confirming they too did see Gina dancing with the man wearing glasses. And that was not Epperly. We can only assume the mystery friend was one of her friends she was meeting, sitting at the table that she walked directly to upon her arrival just 30 minutes earlier. Speculation, I imagine, days later, when this man heard what had happened to Gina, he would have carried tremendous guilt and maybe would not have wanted to become known as having been there at all. Or maybe he did come forward and we just do not know. The man Delana thought it might be is no longer with us to even ask. Had Delana been asked in 1980, there is a good chance we would have known who he was. In all fairness, to all who worked diligently, many very good people, totally overwhelmed with what was transpiring every minute, day to day. So these statements are in no way to be construed as ill intent towards them. But that is not to say they were all good. They were not. The Hall family experienced both good and bad. Authoritative people. People with an agenda in 1980. The women's report was ignored, no matter if intentional or not. And it is possible it was never shared with state authorities. This we definitely know to be true. The women's account conflicted with the killer and the best friend Bill King's account of the night. These unknown or unemphasized facts from Gina's case file align with character facts from court testimony, even though some details came up unplanned, like the fact that the driver's side car door handle strap was broken. I am sure when the jury heard that testimony given, they questioned to themselves, if Gina went with him willingly, how, when, and where did that happen? Many witnesses were called to testify regarding Gina's character, crucial to the prosecutor's case, testifying to Gina's personal history and her impeccable good character. So when taken into account all of the information as a whole, an entirely different picture of what really happened inside of the Marriott emerges and aligns with the intentionally left out information in Gina's case file, not found in the final narrative. Much relevant information not even touched upon, because those facts would just lead to extra layers of confusion. It was necessary to build the case with a simple narrative as straightforward as possible without having Gina's remains, and still win the conviction. Boy meets girl, girl refuses boy's sexual advances, boy, 28 years old, loses temper and kills girl. That's a brilliant prosecution. A feat absolutely appreciated by the Hall family. Still yet, it is not all of the truth. Gina's, King's, and more. Others were not blind to that fact either. When the case went to appeal, that court did not even mention King's testimony as relevant to the overall trial in their list of reasons to uphold the conviction. Minimizing King's testimony in relation to the success of the conviction is indicative of the higher court's opinion of its relevance, maybe even truth, and their professional abilities to analyze the entire trial's content. This will provide more clarification regarding Gina's sister's objection and disgust to the storyline written by Peterson in Under the Trestle. Gina left the club with a man shortly after midnight, etc. Kim Jett was one of these 1980 women witnesses who came forward immediately to report to the police what they knew about Gina. The missing girl they immediately recognized on the news. On January the 18th, 2019, Kim Jett called me. There is no question that decades later she was still distraught with guilt, having not insisted that Gina leave with them when they left at 11:45 p.m., about 15 minutes after Gina sat down with them, and just 45 minutes after Gina arrived. Gina told the two women she would be fine and would also go ahead and leave. In Gina's sister's opinion, Gina may have wanted to walk back by her friend's table to tell them bye or to get her purse if she had it. We cannot know every detail of what transpired, but what Delana knows is that Gina did not stand back, waiting for Epperly, as described by King, watching Epperly walk over to another old man, King, and whisper in his ear. Gina just standing back, waiting on Epperly to return so she could leave with him to go to what they themselves called the cabin, after having sought refuge just moments earlier at a table from the same predator. Even if the predator was not Epperly, although Kim Jett states it was. Even if not, a harassment incident that caused her to seek help would have caused her immense fear and led to Gina leaving immediately. Keys are the key to the lies. We could write pages about the keys, the key testimonies, the statements in the file from others, including the report from a fisherman down by the dock who just a few hours earlier watched Epperly and King walk down the hill and go into the basement of the lake house through the unlocked sliding glass door. Nor did Gina agree to go to the cabin. Gina, King, and Epperly walking out to the Marriott together, just the three of them. When asked in the trial who all went out to the cars, King replies, "To the best of my knowledge, just we three." How do you not know? Epperly asks King to borrow his car as they walk out, and when they get to their cars, Gina is somehow confused about which car and who was going where, but still said it was okay for Epperly to drive her sister's car and take her to a cabin. Gina was not confused because none of that happened. Gina would have never left her sister's car. Gina would have never let anyone else drive her sister's car, and most definitely Gina would have never, under any circumstances, agreed to go anywhere with any man in the context portrayed. They simply targeted the wrong girl. The question is, who is they? Because Epperly did not have a car. Once that little detail is resolved, progress might be made in determining the identity of the second man that Lincoln Duncan witnessed in Meadow Creek with Epperly dismembering Gina, an act that was not a first-time act or occurrence, considering the 1977 Angela Rader site soil confirmed as organic human decomposition present. And that site is about a quarter-mile upstream from Gina's witnessed, dog-confirmed, and excavated site. And one of the three unidentified girls' bone fragments from his subfloor of his bedroom closet led to a positive signal in that same area. Seems a bird needs to sing with truth, not lies, to get to the bottom of his crimes. Or if not, it will come, if it is to be known. God most definitely answers prayers. Kim found Delana because of a social media comment and was so excited to contact Gina's sister and share with her that she knew Gina did not go willingly, and that she had been telling the parole board that message, not only in letters, but in direct conversation throughout the years. Delana already knew the details of Kim Jett's story to be true because she had seen the local police report with the last line stating, "Sent girls to Trooper Hall." And Trooper Hall referenced a few lines about Kim Jett in his notes, but not the whole report given to the local authorities. So this fact was reported in detail to a local authority describing what had happened to Gina in the Marriott that night. Delana read the reports in 2016 in Gina's file, and they did indeed come forward twice. And of significance today, Peterson also knew about the women and their story. Delana saw the same scenario that had been reported by these women being written about by Peterson in his original draft chapters of Under the Trestle. He wrote, years later, another patron at the bar that night, Kimberly Jett, would have the following recollection. I met Gina in the club the night she disappeared. He had in the club in parentheses. So I met Gina the night she disappeared. I only spoke with Gina for about 20 minutes. I know I was one of the last few people to talk to her and to see Stephen Epperly bothering her. That, in fact, was why we met. She approached me and my roommate and asked to sit with us because Epperly wouldn't leave her alone. He even approached her at our table. We chased him off. Sadly, we left not too long after. We did ask Gina if she wanted to walk out. So the unfortunate truth is that this same relevant information was also known about by the author of Under the Trestle, originally referenced in a draft chapter sent to Delana from another person, written approximately a year before Under the Trestle was released. Relevant, necessary information if one wants to be honest and fair to Gina, yet omitted from the final draft, and in addition, completely changed the original draft content of the dance scene to what we now see in Under the Trestle on page 33. Even if Peterson had to remove the Chemjet content because of the commonly used excuse of legality, he still knew about it. When Delana read page 33 and saw what had been written, knowing what had been previously written in his initial draft's content, Delana saw what a sister was to see. Here is the final UTT version. After about 30 minutes of dancing, Gina and Epperly left the dance floor, with Gina walking back to the table she sat at previously. Witnesses recall them going their separate ways for a while. One witness recalls Epperly approaching Gina at least twice, but at some point in the next hour they came back together. So the real truth is that the Chemjet Epperly harassed Gina story disrupts the now even more sensationalized storyline that has emerged. The small-town girl exchanging glances, eager to dance, so she obliged, dancing on and off throughout the night, willingly leaving to go to a cabin with a man she met 30 minutes earlier. Now, knowing that the author also knew this man would not leave Gina alone, a truth that fits his true character, unlike all of the above storyline of untruths that do not fit Gina's character, testified to by many, sometimes it has to get dark to see the light come in. Is this narrative a square peg in a round hole that just keeps getting pushed further and further in? That page 33 storyline is a sensationalized, conjectured scene as if written for a movie. Delana will never stop fighting for Gina's truth, Gina's voice as to what really transpired that night at the Marriott. Women and real men should never allow any victim to be blamed, which is exactly what page 33 is, with words like Gina's dancing would have absolutely stoked the fire of Epperly's raw instincts. Conversely, Gina, an 18-year-old small-town girl, may not have fully realized the effect her dancing would have on a predator like Epperly. Her dancing. Unacceptable. Ignoring Chemjet's story has serious consequences. There are real people with real emotional ties to what happened to Gina in 1980. The sad reality of ignoring people and their truths, like Chemjet, embellishing non-facts, or eliminating what does not fit in the storyline one wants to compose, is just wrong. And for what reason? The sad reality of a market with a thirst for true crime, other stories at the expense of the victims and their families. Time for a change. In conclusion, it is wrong to state as if factual that Gina left the club with a man, or that Gina was just having fun. She was not. Next statement, Gina left willingly with Epperly. False, if you believe Gina's family and friends. True, if you believe the killer and the best friend story. It is clear from all character witness testimony that that storyline would never have happened, and certainly not as told by the killer's best friend. It is clear from all the car evidence that the composed story did not happen as told. The broken driver's side inside car door handle strap is not to be ignored or mansplained away. The condition of the car door handle is brought up in court testimony just as it was seen by her family and her friends. That terrible day as we stood near the trestle looking at the car. Everything about the car evidence should have led to knowing the killer and his best friend's story was a lie. Those who from the very beginning did not allow all of the evidence found in the car to guide them to the truth, to form the accurate picture of what really transpired that night, not being able to explain the cigarette butts. A few, yes, but an ashtray full? No. Or the fast food trash for two, when Gina never ate fast food? Or the orange Tennessee plastic cup? Or the mud on only one side of the car tires in conjunction with cattail seeds stuck in the car's front grille, commonly found in ditches in the New River region. And most importantly, a fact that should never have been ignored, the broken driver's side inside car door strap. Why? The composed story became the foundation, and in the beginning, perception of those involved, the men, led to a preconceived assumptive judgment about Gina, a girl. Not by all authorities, just some. Many, actually. As well as preconceived, initially positive opinions formed about the local men involved by other local men. That's a male mindset, still prevalent today in the statements made by those who continue to minimize the car's evidence and even relevant to Gina's truth. Making statements like, it's just silly to believe that the broken car door handle is significant. Car parts break all of the time. And that statement is self-serving and indicative of true character. Had the car evidence not been sidelined, details about other victims may have come to light. And had some not hidden the known facts about Epperly from other authoritative people, maybe other possible victims from later that summer could have been prevented. Those after Gina, before Epperly was finally locked away. And had Epperly's actions not been ignored by many for all of the years prior to Gina, maybe his earlier victims could have become known and justice rendered. Still, could be the righteous objective. Deservingly for Angela Rader, just a child, and those 3 yet to be identified victims, whose hidden bone fragments were hidden in the subfloor of Epperly's bedroom closet, and all those still yet to be known. Next statement. Steve put no visible force on her. Gina left willingly with Steve, happy. Steve drove her car because he knew the way. False. We now know the truth of McCoy Road. What we do have is the science that confirms human chemical compounds indicative of human decomposition from the excavated burial sites, including the dismemberment site, not only for Gina, but also for Angela Rader, missing since 1977. And that same instrument that guided us to those exact locations also guided us to the human bone fragments of 4 different girls hidden in this serial killer's bedroom closet subfloor. And an absolute shock to me was that that same instrument led us to McCoy Road, about 6 miles from the Marriott. Also a dog-confirmed site. Most likely the place where Gina pulled the car off to the side of the road, into the ditch with the cattail seeds, held her driver's side door shut as long as she could until that strap broke. The place where we excavated, or if we were to excavate, we probably would find her missing plastic eyeglasses that she wore when she drove at night. Missing. Maybe with hair or blood on them, sending out the positive signal. Which aligns with the facts found in the documentation that there was significant blood loss there for the instrument to pick up. And if we look closely at the documentation regarding the trunk carpet that had blood stains, not just the one that was visible to the eye, but the smaller, different places on the trunk's carpet, including an edge. Seems a far stretch that a dead body wrapped in a quilt would have had blood at various places, in light of other evidence mentioned. It is certainly to be considered that Gina may have been put in that trunk twice. And seems two hungry men, a Tennessee football fan, a chain smoker, etc., drove onto the lake. Not telling the whole truth has consequences then and still now. Next statement. Gina told her sister that she was at the lake with Steve. Gina was with Steve. False. Just see court testimony, or if one really wants an accurate picture, listen to the inflections of Delena's voice in the actual court recordings. The answer Gina gave, "I'm looking at it," in the context in which it was given, does not convey anything except that Gina was giving us her location as best she could, not knowing anything about where she had been taken, except that she could see a lake. And it has always been very clear. The conversation ended with one word, the last word Gina spoke. One word, Steve, not "I am with Steve." Gina never told Delana that she was with Steve. Again, context matters. Delana's testimony, all she said was Steve, and that is all. Court testimony reflects exactly what Gina said to her sister, and saying Gina was with Epperly in the context in which it is presented is not Gina's sister's truth, but a killer story. Gina told her sister that she would be home soon. False. This originated from the killer's statement. When asked by prosecutor if Gina made any remark if she would be home or not, Delana answered, "I asked her, please, you need to hurry on home." And as she testified, she didn't say anything. That was the end of the conversation. There was no bye. After Delana said, "Please hurry on home," there was no answer. The phone clicked dead. Epperly was the only one who said in his police statement that Gina told her sister she would be home soon. Delana's exact statement, testimony, and context of her words never changed. From all day Sunday, calling everyone she knew, asking about a Steve who might be associated with the lake, to 1 p.m. Monday, June 30th, 1980, standing at the Trestle looking at her car's broken driver's inside door handle strap, where she first gave the local police and state police that one word, Steve, as a clue to where Gina might be. To Delana's court testimony in December 1980 as the opening witness in her sister's murder trial, testifying that Gina gave no response after she had given Delana the one word, Steve. Gina's last word spoken to her sister before Delana's last words spoken to her. By giving us her captor's first name, Steve, Gina is the absolute only reason Steve Epperly is behind bars today. Gina is the hero. The one word, Steve, was direct information that led to Epperly having no choice except to come forward and begin telling the composed story. The only reason. And yet, still today, January 2022, Delana is continuing to declare that the context is different depending on the narrative one wants to tell or needs to use. Delana's words were twisted then, and they will continue to be twisted. The killer and his best friend's story became the composed narrative, taking Delana's words and other women's reports and many character witnesses out of context to continue to fit the narrative being portrayed. Epperly was poor and could not afford a defense. False. This statement is a matter of opinion formed without digging deeper into public record details that imply otherwise. It is part of public records that Epperly did have counsel by another defense attorney, but the decision was made to not use them. For an author to play the socioeconomic card, indirectly suggesting that this murderer did not have a fair situation, referencing socioeconomic backgrounds and implying that Epperly could not afford good counsel is unacceptable to the family of the victim. Yes, it is a fact that his parents used the value in their home and a relative's home as bond collateral to meet the amount needed to get him out of jail before the trial. He was released for approximately 1 month. Not hiring a defense does not make Epperly, the 28-year-old drug dealer, poor. Drug dealers have access to the best defense attorneys, just as did Epperly, just like he did in 1976 when 2 different rape charges were dismissed. Epperly told Virginia State Police in August 1980 that he needed to go to Ohio to work because he still owed money for his 1976 rape defense, and interestingly to Hardy, his boss, the one who gave him the $5,000, according to Hardy's own statements. 2 well-known defense attorneys could be named just from factual information found in later appeal testimonies, specifically Everett Shockley's own testimony regarding one of those defense attorneys, confronting him about the case and his discussions and opinions. So there was counsel with that same defense attorney prior to his arrest. He was associated to others well connected to defense attorneys, as well as many other facts known in 1980. Epperly's own arrogance and pride was his worst enemy. Why pay for defense attorneys when he was given advice and believed he could not lose because there was nobody? And they all played to it brilliantly. I think I have made my point about some of the inaccurate information, but let's go one step further and not leave out the best friend, the unsung hero, as a recent Eastern Virginia crime podcaster named him, coincidentally located in the same area where both King and Peterson live. Never a dull moment. King came forward on his own, helping the police. False. Again. Please see testimony of Austin Hall. In King's handwritten statement, he said Epperly told him that Trooper Austin Hall wanted to talk to him, but King replied to Epperly that he did not want to. Hours later, very late on Tuesday night, King says he went to Epperly's home and called Trooper Hall to schedule an appointment. Austin Hall was directly asked about this in the trial. Court testimony confirms that Austin said, "I do not remember talking to King on the telephone." What Austin Hall did remember is having to go find King on Wednesday afternoon. He testified, "I remember finding Bill King working one day, July the 2nd. He was working in Rapid, and I found him on the job and talked to him about this." King's own statement and Austin Hall's testimony that he had to go find King aligns with other case file facts. The implied message that certainly prevailed by many is that King is the cooperative fellow because King told that he heard the description of Gina on the radio, recognized her as the girl Epperly was with, then went and confronted Epperly. Therefore, King was responsible for getting Epperly to go to the police and tell the police that he had been with the girl. As always, there is just so much more to be known about what exactly transpired. Early Tuesday morning at the Barbell Club, before going to find Epperly, as verified in several statements given, King learned Delana, the sister of the missing girl, knew about Steve. The actual statements tell of the conversations at the Barbell Club, stated by many that the topic of conversation was Gina and that her sister had been calling Jan Fisher. So, King was told that the missing girl's sister had called Jan Fisher's mother asking about Steve. That phone call's content shared by Jan Fisher with King early Tuesday morning, a conversation that alerted King that we knew about Steve. Hence, King was only responsible for alerting Epperly about Delana's Monday afternoon phone call made to Jan Fisher, prompting the Tuesday morning discussion at the Barbell Club, making all aware we have the name Steve. And I must add, no one, including the local RPD officer present and a participant in the Barbell conversation, not a single one of them went to the police with what they knew, while Gina's family and friends and investigators were all desperately searching for Gina. Gina's sister Delana did call the Fisher family, looking for a Steve connected to the lake. Multiple statements in Gina's case file from others in the Barbell Club confirms this, including King's own initial statement. So the illusion that King was responsible for Epperly coming forward based on the storyline that he himself told, coming forward to police of his own free will, false. But if you still need more to prove this point, then King's own initial handwritten statement might shed some interesting perspective, as well as Austin Hall's testimony and the defense attorney's summary in King's cross-examination. And it is most interesting that Epperly decided during the trial to present a letter to the judge complaining that his court-assigned defense attorneys who did not do the job he had asked them to do, which was to interview his friends, not only King, but also, and he named other friends, to confirm his character. That letter is certainly interesting. What it implies is that King's testimony was unexpected by Epperly. And it is evident that when the Austin Hall testimony began down a different narrative, one that painted the picture of a non-cooperative King, the defense questioning was interrupted. Shockley brilliantly shut down further questioning of Austin Hall regarding having to go find King, because King was important to the prosecution's keep it simple and straightforward narrative. There are so many more facts about exactly what transpired in 1980 that could be shared, so many. This is just a small part of the many reasons there is so much more to the Gina Hall murder case and trial than the simplified narrative that always gets told. Any depiction of Gina that aligns with the story they created, any depiction that she was gleefully dancing with Epperly or that she left happy and willingly with him is morally wrong. Any portrayal of Gina, if based on that UTT storyline, will not be an accurate account of Gina and her truth, and is wrong, not just for Gina, but for all victims.